So Dan, how's your campaign going so far?
Campaign's going really well. Of course, we're rounding off to the final week coming up here, so it's been good. Team's all ready to go for the final actual candidate selection meeting, so everything's going great.
Okay, perfect. And so how confident do you feel in your chances when the nomination happens May 7th?
Well, feeling very confident. Again, going back to, I got a great team on board. We had a really good, in the two phases, of course, the membership sales. Membership sales went very well, which is, a big component of, getting the people to come out to the selection meeting. So the big focus right now is contacting people, making face-to-face contacts, just being out in the community, connecting, and trying to get everyone to actually come out and participate in the selection meeting. So that's all going very well, and like you say, it's going very good, and I'm quite confident.
I see. So obviously you're based out of Fort St. John, but I know you've been trying to get around the region. What other communities have you been visiting?
I've visited Hudson's Hope, quite a bit of time up in Fort Nelson, actually heading up to Fort Nelson again to visit with their trade show. Of course, around Fort St. John, did a community hall out in Montney, and I'll be trying to host a coffee here in Taylor sometime just leading up to the actual candidate selection meeting. So, and it's important. I mean, the issues that residents in Fort St. John are dealing with are different issues, well, very different issues than what, what's going on in Fort Nelson, and different, again, what's happening out in, with our rural friends in Montney. So it's important to get out there, talk, find out what's, what differences are out there and how it's affecting everybody differently. So that's why I've been out in the community.
I see. So you said there's a bit of a difference in concerns based on difference in communities. What kind of things have you been hearing from residents?
Well, up in Fort Nelson, they're really, in essence, a single industry town. So, the economic downturn has really affected them a lot. Fort St. John, we're a little bit luckier. I mean, we've certainly been impacted significantly by the natural gas slowdown, but we do have other industries that are, quite healthy right now. Agriculture, which is, kind of a backbone, going way back. Forestry is doing well. And, so those other industries are going. Quite a different issue what's happening, in Fort Nelson. Rural residents, they've got, if you go north of town, they're looking at, there's, windmills, a big windmill farm being proposed out there that is really impacting them. Most people in Fort St. John, wouldn't have that as an issue. So, I mean, there are very significant, single issues that are affecting, everybody. And, so like I say, being out in the community and out visiting the different areas gives me a bit of a feel on what's going on.
Gotcha. Okay, so you've talked about this on the campaign trail before, but just so you can tell us again, why did you decide to get into provincial politics?
Well, I mean, as far as I can remember, I've been involved in politics in some way, shape, or another. Going back, even into high school, being on student council, president of the brand new high school, the North Peace, when it opened here. Of course, it's not brand new anymore. I've always been involved on different boards, fundraising, activities in the community. And in 2005, when I first ran for city council, leading up to that, everybody said, why don't you do this? Why don't you, make your mark on our community? Your family's been up here for, since the 40s, and you've always been involved in the community and helping and stuff. Why don't you run for city council? And that was my real launch into, into formal politics. And as soon as my first term, it was very memorable. It had such a tremendous impact on who I was as a person, and seeing what a great impact an individual can have on communities. And as that time went on, then you're connecting with provincial and federal politicians, and that is kind of what spurred me to pursue the upper levels of government, provincial and federal, to which I've already done. I've done a provincial nomination as well as a federal nomination.
Right, okay. And so moving to one of your platforms, you have a very specific plan for improving the economic slowdown in the region. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the plan is we need to educate. We need to educate others. We need to get our message out to Ottawa, making sure that that all levels of government are hearing how this natural gas slowdown has affected our communities. And I say communities plural. I mean Fort Nelson. The entire region has been dramatically affected by this. At the end of the day, we need to continue to apply pressure to the federal government. We need to continue to, make these relationships at all levels of government, provincial, federal, even our First Nations governments. We need to continue to be working on all of these avenues to try and move these projects forward, to try and move the liquefied natural gas projects forward.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Dan, for joining us, and I hope you join us tomorrow.